Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to another episode of Humbug Videos. It's your host, C. Smith, and today we have got another great video for you guys. You guys loved my rod and reel buyer's guide for trout fishing gear, so I thought I would do one today for some bass fishing gear. This is going to be everything from a $50 budget all the way up to an $800 budget. So no matter what, milestone you're on in your fishing journey, I'm gonna have a rod and reel for you in today's video. So I'm gonna do 3 spinning combos and I'm gonna do 4 baitcast combos. I thought I'd get a little bit of both in there. So I tried to get as many different brands as possible here. It's gonna be a lot of Shimano, Abu Garcia, stuff like that. So I got a lot of good brands for you. So without further ado, let's get started on spinning combo number 1. For your number 1 spot for spinning combo, we're gonna be at the $50 price range, and that is going to be the Ugly Stick GX2 combo. This is for your person that is just getting into bass fishing. You don't want to spend a ton of money and a bunch of really nice bass gear. You just want a rod and reel that's going to last you a while and catch you some fish, and that is exactly what Ugly Stick has made this rod for. This rod is perfect. I still have one that I use for catfish and other stuff, and I still love the rod. They're not very sensitive, so once you eventually get really into it and you realize it's a time to upgrade, you're gonna see a huge difference going to another product. But in terms of the price and the quality that you get for $50, I don't think there's anything else out there that's even close to that. I would get the 6.6 medium. That's going to be the 35 reel size. That's going to be perfect for almost all your all-around bass fishing that you're going to do. Alrighty, now here's where we have a huge jump up. There's a lot of combos in that $100 range that you could go with as well. Bass Pro and Cabela's, they sell a lot of combos that you could go do. But I think upping it just a little bit and getting something a little more custom, something that's gonna kind of match whatever type of bass fishing you're doing, is something a little better than the combos. And in this case, we're gonna be doing the Abu Garcia Vendetta spinning rod with the Pflueger President reel. This is gonna be coming in at $150. The rod, the Vendetta, is $90 and the Pflueger President is $60. The Vendetta rod, they make a 7-foot medium fast. In any of these spinning rod combos here, if you can get a 7-foot medium fast, to me that is the perfect all-around bass fishing spinning setup. That's the one I would go with. But yeah, the Vendetta, I had one 5 or 6 years ago before I could drive. This is when I was in high school. I would grab my rod and reel. I had this same combo and I would just bike to all the local ponds around my house. I dropped that setup off my bike so many times it hit the ground. The concrete dropped in the water before. That setup was so beat up and it always worked for me. It was just an amazing setup. I caught so many, we're talking thousands of fish. I was going almost every day after school when I had the chance. So caught a lot of fish with that setup for 150 bucks. Incredible setup. I love that setup. I think I ended up giving it to a buddy just because I upgraded to the next setup I'm about to talk about here. Now we're getting into the a little higher end setup, and this is the highest I would go for spinning gear for bass. You can go higher than this, but at $320, you're still looking at a pretty steep price here for a rod and reel. That is going to be the 13 Fishing Omen Black with a Shimano Stratic 2500. Now, I actually have this setup right here. I have a Senko tied on currently with it, but the rod is a 7'1" medium fast, and the Shimano Stratic is kind of tricky to find nowadays. However, they do make the Shimano Vanford, which is basically the newest version of this. This one was technically discontinued. However, you can still find it online at some tackle shops. You can also find them used on eBay, a lot of them on eBay for around 200 bucks. So all in all, with the rod being about 110, I said about $320 total for the setup here. Absolutely fantastic setup. This is hands down the nicest spinning combo that I've ever used. All my friends, when we go fishing, if I let them take a cast with this, they just go, whoa, dude, this is extremely light. This rod, this is the older Omen. They have a new model as well, and it's also great. However, the older model, I don't know if they did this with the new one, but they took off a layer of coating on the top, which does make it very brittle. This is a very brittle rod. I've snapped one in the past, but it makes it extremely lightweight. So it's an exceptional rod. And then paired up with the Stratic, obviously you guys know how much I love these reels. You guys have seen this setup in almost, I mean, I would say probably 95% of my bass fishing videos in the last 3 years, this setup has been in that video. I don't see myself upgrading anytime soon. I have no problem catching a buttload of fish with this setup right here. And as you guys can see, I fish Senkos with this, and I also fish a lot of drop shots. It's still a sensitive enough setup for drop shot. If you wanted to throw like small little Kitex, like the little 3 inches, those would work great with this. It's a very versatile rod. So in terms of spinning gear, I always, no matter where I'm going bass fishing, I always bring this with me because it's just such an amazing setup. So there's the spinning setups. Now we're gonna get started on the 4 baitcast setups. Now what you will notice here with the baitcasters is I have started at $150. Trust me, don't do it. Don't buy a baitcast setup under $100 unless it's used on Facebook Marketplace or eBay or something like that, and it's a nicer setup that you're getting for cheaper amount. But in terms of a new rod and reel, don't do it. Once you truly realize that, wow, bass fishing is my new hobby, I love this, I wanna go all in, I wanna get nicer gear, then save your money and upgrade to a nicer baitcast setup, because you are going to 100% thank me. I had to do this the hard way. I bought like a $60 Walmart baitcast reel, my first reel, and that was such a pain in the butt. It was horrible, just horrible. I don't know why they make them. They're so incredibly bad. So just save your money and buy something a little bit nicer. They have anything from $150 to $1,000 up, but anything in that range is typically gonna be good, especially if you were to go with one of the 4 here that I'm gonna talk to you guys about. Okay, so for combo number 1 here, this is actually a built-in combo. So Bass Pro Shops has a lot of baitcast rod and reels that they have just set out ready to go. You don't have to actually buy a rod and then buy a reel and put them together to fish. This one that just comes with rod and reel on it, ready to go. Some of the combos are really bad, however, some of the combos are pretty good. So the one I have here, this is the Bass Pro Shops Pro Qualifier Baitcast Combo. Now this is coming in at $150, however, during Christmas they do a lot of sales with this. You can probably get it for closer to $100, but if you were to go in at any random time, it's probably about $150 for this combo. This is about the cheapest I would go in baitcast world. The reel itself here is actually a pretty good reel for this price range. Typically these reels sell for closer to like $100 and the rod is around $50. So you're getting a decent reel for that price. I think for a combo, $150 is very, very cheap for baitcast world, and I think this setup, you get your full $150 out of it. I think it's a pretty good setup. The reel still isn't going to be, you know, extremely easy, but it's going to be a lot better than those really, really crappy setups. I have fished with this setup before. A buddy of mine had it and let me cast it, and I really liked it. For $150, it's not too shabby. So this is what I would go, or any of those combos around $150 you can find at Bass Pro or Cabela's. Those are all gonna work pretty well, but this is one particularly that I've had good luck with in the past. Now we're getting to the good stuff. This is the fun stuff. This is where your quality goes up tenfold. This is where your ease of use, and you're just gonna have so much more fun while you're fishing. This next setup here is coming in at $190, and this is going to be the Shimano SLX and the Abu Garcia Vendetta baitcast rod. We already talked about the Vendetta rods. We talked about the spinning rod version. The baitcast version is no exception. It's a fantastic rod for 90 bucks. And the Shimano SLX is, in my opinion, the best $100 reel on the market right now. It's an incredible reel. It is fantastic. For $100, you are getting all 100, the best bang for your buck, hands down. You could also replace this with an Abu Garcia Revo X. That would be another good one. It's also $100. Those two are very, very similar. Kind of just depends on what brand you like more, but they would both be incredible. Those are 2 incredible setups. Overall, for $190, this is a huge jump up from the Pro Qualifier setup. You're getting a much more custom setup as well. So for instance, the Pro Qualifier, there may only be a couple different sizes for combos. However, for this, you can pick whatever you want. 7 foot, 7'6", 7'2", 6'10", you know, whatever. You have a lot more choices with this. I would say if you're just getting started into bass fishing or bait casters in general, I would go with like a 7'2" medium heavy. That's pretty much gonna cover you for 80% of all bait cast uses. As long as you have a nice 7 foot medium fast spinning rod you can use for your finesse stuff, to have that 7'2", 7'3", 7'4" medium heavy bait caster, you can throw all your heavy stuff with that. So it's nice to have one of each to, you know, cover all different types of baits. So, okay, now we're getting into some even more fun stuff here. This next setup is gonna be at around $320. And this is a setup I actually have right here. I absolutely love both of these two. For the rod, we are going with a Dobyns Fury. This is the 733C. You could also do the 734C. Both are fantastic setups. These rods are about 130, 120, depending on where you get them. And the reel for this is going to be the Shimano Curado K. Most of you are familiar with Curados. Curados are an exceptional line of Shimano's reels. The K is no exception. Incredible. It's about $190. So all in all with this setup, you're about 320 bucks. $320 for bass fishing still technically isn't high end, but this is the first setup so far of the list that you really start to feel, whoa, this is quality. This is really, really exceptional quality. It makes my fishing so much easier. And Dobyns rods are fantastic. I think, in my opinion, if I had one baitcast rod for the rest of my life, it's probably a Dobyns. Dobyns just make so many different sizes. They're really durable rods. The nice thing about Dobyns too is they also kind of tell you on the side, they tell you here what lures you should be throwing with this rod. And obviously you can push the envelope on, you know, a little lighter, a little heavier, but it's really nice that Dobyns does that. I think for the beginner fisherman, I think that's an awesome little thing there. But yeah, 733C or 734C with the Shimano Curado K. Okay, this last one is probably going to be out of a lot of your guys' budgets, or just you're not really thinking about a setup like this. However, this is going to be around 850 bucks. We're going with, for the rod, we're going for the Dobyns Champion XP. So that rod's coming in at around 350 bucks. It's a lot like the Fury that I talked about previously. However, it's definitely a major step up in terms of sensitivity. And for the reel, we are going with the Shimano Metanium DC. This is, in terms of Shimano reels, there's one or two more I think that are a little nicer than this one, but this is Shimano's cream of the crop. I mean, this is some of the best in terms of bass fishing you can ever have. This reel is fantastic. For those of you that don't know, the DC is a digital control. There is a chip in there that controls the spool at 1/1000th of a second. So basically it just your odds of backlashing with this go down so much. It's insane how few times I have ever backlashed with this reel. My junior year of high school, I worked at a mandarin orchard and I picked mandarins all season and saved up a bunch of money and bought this. At the time, this was just a Japanese reel. This was a JDM product. We didn't have them in the United States. However, we now have them in the United States, so you know, you can buy them at some Bass Pros, you can buy them at Tackle Warehouse. Those two together are going to be about $850. You can replace this with the Antares DC, which is more expensive. You could go with, I believe Dobyns has a couple higher end as well. I know Shimano has a couple that are around that $400 or $500 mark. Mega Bass has a lot of really, really nice rods in terms of that. For baitcasters, I would put more emphasis on buying a nicer reel, and for the spinning setups, I would put more emphasis on buying a nicer rod. I think those are the two most important parts in each of those. You guys may disagree with me on that, but from my experience, that's what I would do. If you guys want to check out the rod and reel buyer's guide for trout, I will put that right here for you. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. Hope you guys learned something out of this. If you have any questions, feel free to leave them down below and I will respond as fast as I can. Thank you guys for watching. We'll see you guys next time on Humbug Videos.